Hey, what's up, guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you all have had a wonderful weekend so far, and welcome back to my Saturday Q&A session. Oh, my favorite time of the week where I get to spend it just with you guys, just talk candidly, and don't worry, even though I do live streams now on Sundays, they're not replacing the Q&As by any means, so trust me, keep asking questions for the Q&As, because when I answer any questions for the Sunday videos, which I won't always be doing, keep in mind, I'm also playing video games at the same time, so I'm not always looking at the comments, but I try to as much as I can. But yes, the most effective way to do it and have your name in the spotlight is to stick to the Q&A session on Saturdays. And speaking of the streams, a lot of people seemed to really enjoy it last week. I really enjoyed it. Basically, it was like just sitting right down with you guys and having sort of like a bonus session. And so I've really enjoyed it. I think you guys did too. So we're going to be doing that again. Last week I mentioned that Symmetra was going to be on from Overwatch, was going to be on the show tomorrow. I got my weeks mixed up. She's actually coming on the following week. So, yep, we have a cool little celebrity guest. Not a little one, she's a big one, big star. But yep, we got a celebrity guest coming on not this week, but the following week. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope you guys are too. I do have sort of a question for you though. This is sort of a two-part question. The first one is, because the stream did go well, what I would like to start doing is posting streams on my off days in addition to Sundays. So for those of you who don't know, my off days are usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I thought, you know what, why not do streams there too? Because that just gives me more time to spend with you, and that's what I'm really enjoying. So I've thought about doing that. Just let me know in the comments below when you ask your Q&A question. Do you want to see me do more streaming? And so I can just interact with you guys more personally. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you guys, in case anyone knows, again, just off the top, because I've tried to research this on Google and can't find it. Have any of you tried video Skyping on Xbox One before? Because I can Skype on there okay, but when I try to get video involved, it just shuts the call down. So I'm wondering if I'm doing something wrong or if there's something that I need to do. I'm obviously using the Kinect for it. If it's going to be a continuous issue, I'm not really sure how I'm going to pull this off, because remember, when I do the interview with Symmetra, that's how we're going to do it, is via Skype, so I'm trying to pull that off as best I can. So if you guys have any suggestions for me, I would be so grateful if you could leave them in the comments below. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the Q&A session this week. I'm really excited for this one. For those of you who don't know how this works, again, I select 12 questions every week. The way you submit it is in the comments section below. Just submit your question and it will appear in next week's video. If I don't get to your question, just copy and paste it until I do. Or if you start to get frustrated with me, which I don't blame you for, hit me up on Twitter. That certainly sets off an alarm in my head to definitely push that question forward, because if you guys are taking the time to ask the questions, I want to make sure that you're getting an answer. So again, I really appreciate everyone asking questions. We've got 12 really good ones this week. And so we're going to start this one off with Raphael Gaytan. And Raphael asks, what do you feel that 343 did better than Bungie? Oh gosh, I'm going to have to go dark for 6 months after answering this question. So there is, believe it or not, something that I think 343 has done better than Bungie, and that's that they've added AI into multiplayer, specifically through Warzone Firefight. Obviously, we had Firefight with Bungie, but this sort of ups it a little bit, because remember, Warzone also has AI in multiplayer, and that's something that I'd like to see a lot more of. I'd like to see them expand on it, maybe have bots in future games where you have, you might have an 8 versus 8 conflict, but you'll have maybe another 5 to 10 bots on each. I'd say, yeah, maybe 10 bots on each side, just to make it feel like a big war, make them easier to kill, so that even if you kind of suck at multiplayer, you can still get some points. And I sort of took this idea from Titanfall, because they have sort of the same thing where they have a lot of bots running around too, so it feels like a much larger conflict, and you're still killing things, so you still feel like you're accomplishing something, even if you're like me and you've only got one hand, so you kind of suck at the multiplayer aspect of it. But that's a good question, Raphael, and I hope that sort of answers it for you. Other than that, I'm not really too sure, but that's something that I really think they have improved upon. So thanks for asking that, Raphael. Our next question comes from Evan Moore, and Evan asks, well, actually, let me back up a little bit. So Evan didn't really ask a question here, but I've seen this brought up before, and I feel like this should be addressed. And so he says that I didn't read the books, and he's right. Kind of, sort of. I have read a couple of the books, mostly in the ones from the Bungie era. But here's the thing, and this is why this is so important. He's addressing a comment about 343 Guilty Spark that I made last week about him being dead, and of course, apparently he was kind of sort of resurrected in one of the books. I haven't read all the books, nor should I have to. Halo 5 this is probably the worst aspect of a 343 Halo game, and Actman agrees with me on this too. You know, he and I differ in opinion for a lot of things, but this is something we definitely are on the same page for. And one of the biggest mistakes that 343 seems to be making with their games thus far is they rely too much on outside content. There was actually a chart drawn out there, and I'll put it on the screen right here, showing everything that you needed to know in order to properly understand the storyline of Halo 5 Guardians. And if you look at this list right here, it's absolutely insane. I mean, you're talking books, you're talking comic books, you're talking about movies. I mean, you're talking about podcasts. And remember, most of this stuff isn't free. You have to go out and buy additional things for it. That's insane. It's a fucking video game. You shouldn't have to go out there and buy hundreds of dollars worth of extra content, just if it's that much, but still, you get the idea, just to understand the story of one fucking game. I mean, holy shit. So, you know, as a gamer myself, I understand that if you're playing the sequel to a game, it's probably a good idea if you at least have played the ones that came before it. That's a given. But when it comes to a lot of outside content, that doesn't make any sense, because not everyone who plays video games is going to want to read or watch these movies, or may not even have access to those things. So, you know, as a gamer, I just want to be able to put the game in, play it from start to finish, and have a basic understanding of what I just went through. So that's something that I hope that they eliminate from here on out. Reading the books should not be necessary to just understand the game itself. And let me know, you guys, what you think in the comments below. Whether you think I'm right, whether you think I'm wrong. I'm not hating on the fact that there's fiction outside of the games. That's great. I think that extended lore is always a good thing to have, but it shouldn't make the games depend on it in order for you to understand the plot of the game. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense here. That was a bit long-winded, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. That comes from the Divine Immortals. I love that name. And Divine asks, what if Halo 6 had a regular rec system like Halo 5 for armor and everything, but it had the Halo Reach armor effects like the Thunderstorm or the Flies, and received them by completing the game on Slazo or Lazo or Mythic, or having some sort of insane speed run time? Honestly, I think that's a great idea. It's something that doesn't really negatively impact the game. It gives the player some sort of little flashy reward for doing something that was really challenging, and it doesn't give the player something that everyone else is going to necessarily like demand to have. You know, and when I mean that is, they're not going to look and be like, "Oh, that's not fair. I got to play the game on the hardest difficulty setting in order to achieve this." Because remember, typically particle effects aren't something that's going to help you in multiplayer as much as it's going to hurt you, because it makes you more easily spotted. So, but if you're like me, and for Halo Reach you always wore the blue flame for the helmet, then absolutely, you know, it's something that you personally want to achieve. I think that's a great method of doing that. So yeah, I'd be completely down for that. I think it's a great idea. Thanks, Divine. Our next question comes from Bobby Frank, or Bobby Frank. It's B-O-B-Y. And Bobby asks, I'll say Frank. Frank asks, would you like to see elites being playable in Halo multiplayer again? Yes and no. So in Halo 3, this was a pretty controversial topic, primarily because back then you could choose what you wanted to be in multiplayer. Of course, you know, you had the Halo elitists who always said it was just little kids who were elites because they just want to be dinosaurs. Hey, I wanted to be a dinosaur too, so don't hate on it, until I got recon armor. So, but the problem with that was elites are not built the same way as Spartans. So for example, they have humps on their back in Halo 3, or at least slight humps, making their heads a lot more difficult to shoot. Also, their hitboxes don't always align correctly with their player models. So eventually Bungie addressed this by taking elites out of ranked matches. And if someone tried to enter as an elite, it would basically default to the regular Spartan or the Mark 6 armor. So in that sense, having said that, the only game where I think it's worked really well, believe it or not, is Halo Reach. I think the invasion game type was an excellent idea. It does give people a chance to have an elite model alongside their Spartan model, and it gives them a place in multiplayer without it being imbalanced. It gives them a reason to be there. So if they do invasion for Halo 6 or any other future title, I say absolutely. But if it's just to be in any multiplayer match, no, I think there are too many cons to that, even if the elites are pretty cool to play in multiplayer. So that's a good question, Frank. Thank you. Our next question comes from Clamier Toast 8. Is that anything like Cinnamon Toast Crunch? And Clamier asks, do you think the Banished and the Spirit of Fire can use the key ship on the Ark to get back to Earth? Or do you think Anders and the help of the engineers will reopen the portal to the Ark? And do you think we will return to the Ark in Halo 6? So, a couple things I want to touch on here. First of all, if the key ship that we saw in both Halo 2 and Halo 3, talking about the big triangular Forerunner ship, I think that'd be great if we saw another game. We've never seen the inside of it. I've always wanted to see the inside of it, so I think that would be cool. Having said that, yes, I don't know if we'll be necessarily returning to the Ark, but I do believe that we will be seeing Halo Wars 2 stuff in Halo 6. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that in this particular question because that's what my Monday video was about. So if you want to stay tuned for Monday, you'll get a much more in-depth explanation. But that's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up, Clamier. Thank you. Our next question comes from Jeremy Spalding. And Jeremy asks, how would you feel if they brought back Hayabusa Armor along with the katana? I remember getting that back in the day, and it was so glorious, and I miss Halo 3. That makes two of us, Jeremy. So I wouldn't mind it personally. I was never a huge fan of the armor. I thought it was tacky. Obviously, if you're a big fan of artistic styles from the East, you know, that might be something that you really like. I thought it was an interesting addition, but pretty quickly it got overused, and so it wasn't really unique. Again, I just wasn't a huge fan of the looks of it. It was definitely interesting, but I don't see it being harmful either. So anyone who wants it, I say, yeah, why not bring it back? Our next question comes from Views Venomous. And Views asks, what are your goals for your channel? Well, this is an interesting one. And maybe this could apply to some of you as well. So I know this is going to sound a bit cliche, but really I just want to continue to expand my community, make sure that there are always more eyes and ears taking in my content, and I want to have a bigger influence on Halo in general, so that when folks come here, they have suggestions, they have opinions. 343 will be watching these things. They're going to listen to my voice as well, and they're going to take these things into account to make a better Halo experience for everybody. But in addition to that, you know, I mentioned a while ago, and I've mentioned this occasionally, but I was in a pretty serious accident with a motorcycle back in 2015, so I'm crippled now and I can't really do what I used to do full time. So what I'm really hoping to add as sort of a bonus to everything that I just said is being able to make a living off of the channel, just being able to provide for myself and my family. So those are the long-term goals that I have. I'm getting there slowly, but it's not an easy process. If you want to be a YouTuber, I think a lot of people think that it's going to be easy, that it's a walk in the park, that anyone can do it. The reality is there's a lot more to it than more people realize, or than most people realize. So I'm hoping this stuff works out. I'm not saying that it will, but I'm going to do the very best I can, and in the process I want to bring you guys excellent content. So that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking it, Views. Thank you. Our next question comes from your boy J2O. I like that name. I think that's pretty kick-ass. And your boy asks, when or if Master Chief dies, do you think we'd get a perspective from Fireteam Osiris or even Blue Team in the next big Halo game if possible? Well, the short end of this answer is, and I've mentioned this before too, I hope that they bring things to a close after Halo 6 in terms of just the overall Halo timeline. Now, if they want to go back and do games that take place before the original Halo or throughout the Halo series, but just from a different character perspective, I'd be 100% down for that. I just feel like the plot's gotten a little out of hand at this point, and things just need to be brought to a close. Having said that, if something happens to Master Chief, will they have another character? I think that it could go either way. They might have a game centered around Master Chief's earlier missions prior to the Halo ring, or whether Master Chief dies or not, I think there's an even higher probability that we will see a game featured around another character. We had a comment, I think it was this past week on one of my videos, where they said 343 said Master Chief was going to be in all the future Halo games, or the main character. That, I think they're getting their signals a little bit crossed there. That's not true. What they said was that Master Chief would be the major character and the central focus of Halo 6. But they'd have split screen for all future first-person Halo titles. So, no, I think after Halo 6, we're going to be seeing different character perspectives, maybe a sequel to ODST. Maybe we'll see a game centered around Buck to see his transition between going from ODST to being a Spartan. There's a lot of possibilities out there, and there's a lot of great characters in the Halo universe that a game could be centered around. So that's a great question, you boy. Thank you. Our next question comes from Patrick Thomas. Always good to see you, Patrick. And Patrick asked, do you think Spartan Jerome from Halo Wars can succeed the Chief? Because I think 343 is trying to make him similar to the old Bungie Chief. He was even on one of Dr. Halsey's original. He was even one of Dr. Halsey's original candidates for becoming Master Chief. I think Jerome is an excellent contender there for being a replacement for the Master Chief in the long run. He's a kick-ass Spartan. He definitely took the center stage for a while in Halo Wars 2, and I would certainly love to have him as a main character in a future Halo title. He's certainly a badass, and I think that he is being groomed to becoming a more central character in the Halo franchise. So I hope that answers your question, Patrick. I hope that answers your Patrick question. But thanks, I appreciate you asking it, bro. Our next question comes from Hesitated Cobra. Dude, don't hesitate, just bite. And Hesitated Cobra asks, what is your opinion on the character Jewel of Adama? Did you like him as a villain or not? And was it right or wrong that 343 had him killed off at the beginning of Halo 5? Would you have liked having him as a major antagonist, Team Osiris, or even the Arbiter in Halo 5? I'm going to put it to you this way. The character of Jewel of Adama was very poorly executed in Halo 5 Guardians. In fact, probably one of the most poorly executed characters in the entire Halo series. For those of you who don't know this, I'm sure most of you do, but he was the main antagonist for Halo 4 Spartan Ops, which was kind of a weird thing in and of itself. I mean, it's something I personally enjoyed, but, you know, it was just kind of different to people. They didn't really know how to react to it, especially since the missions themselves didn't really line up with the cutscenes in general. Honestly, I think the very first mission in Halo 5 Guardians was basically a finale to Spartan Ops. It was a resolution to Spartan Ops. That was dumb on their part. Either the first mission should have been scrapped along with Jewel of Adama, or it should have been a situation, and this is what I personally would have favored, Jewel of Adama as a reoccurring villain that would have led up all the way to the Battle of Sinayan. They could have fleshed out that whole story a little bit better, his character, and maybe even had a position where if you beat him in Battle of Sinayan, then the Warden Eternal comes along and finishes him off. Then you have to fight the Warden. And so, in short, I think that he had a lot of potential, but the writer behind it, and you know who I'm talking about, 343, but the writer behind it just didn't have it right. So hopefully that is not the case with future villains in Halo. I hope that the situation with Cortana isn't resolved in the first mission in Halo 6, because that'd be even worse than what we saw with Jewel of Adama in Halo 5 Guardians. So that's a good question. I hope I answered it, Hesitated Cobra. Thank you. Our next question comes from MBT808. And MBT asks, I didn't know about the Q&A. Wish I had. Well, I'm glad you do now, man. Welcome aboard. So he asks, do you think there's a chance we might get Halo Reach ported in the near future to Xbox One or Scorpio, considering it's the only game not natively available? Yes, I think there is a great chance, because it's still a popular game. It was probably the most elaborate Halo game from the Bungie era, considering it had campaign, multiplayer, and firefight all on one disc, plus Forge mode, don't forget that, and campaign for both theater and multiplayer. So yes, I think that there is a good chance for it. I think it would bring a lot of people back to the Halo franchise who may have tapered off after Halo 4 was released. But what I would like to see them do, and I'd be interested to see what you guys think of this too, is I would rather them wait it out, okay, for a few years, and instead of doing like a Halo 3 anniversary or whatever, do a instead of doing Master Chief Collection or trying to add on to it, do do a classic collection. So you have all 5 Bungie Halo games right there. I'm talking about Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, and Halo Reach, and remaster all 5 of them. You know, you already have Halo Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary, that's fine, but basically do the same with Halo 3, ODST, and Reach. So Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, and Reach, have them all remastered, have multiplayer for all of them, and do it well. That's the big thing right there. I can see that being their next major title after Halo 6, because I think it brings a lot of old school fans back, and a lot of people who are craving the classic style would finally get it, and maybe that would finally restore some trust in 343 Industries. So that's what I think they should do. I think that at the very least we'll see it added to the Master Chief Collection, but I don't know that for sure. But yes, I think eventually it will be brought to the Xbox One or the Scorpio. So thanks for asking that, MBT, and welcome aboard, dude. Good to have you here. And our final question of the day comes from Landon Scott. Any relation to Michael Scott by any chance? That's what she said. So Landon asks, how many more years do you think Halo will last? Ooh, this is a loaded question. Here's the honest answer. This is going to be up to 343 Industries at this point. Halo 6 is going to determine the fate of Halo. And there are going to be people out there who say, yeah, everyone said that about Halo 5. That's not true. I didn't say that about Halo 5. Personally, I loved Halo 4. I wasn't huge into the multiplayer aspect of it, but I loved the campaign, at least the storyline. I thought it was very interesting. It definitely kept me playing for 2 years. And I even liked Spartan Ops. I didn't think it was a worthy replacement for Firefight, but I was still entertained by it. Halo 5 was a failure. It was the worst-selling AAA Halo title ever released. It made less money than Halo 3 ODST, and that should tell you something. Halo 6 isn't just going to determine whether the Halo franchise will go on, but it will determine if the series can just continue even outside of the games. People are losing interest in Halo. Part of it is 343's fault. In fact, I'm willing to say that if you're just looking at Halo 5 alone, it's all 343's fault. However, I do shift some of the blame, at least, on other franchises coming to power. Remember, there was a time when Halo was the frontier of the FPS genre. It is no longer the case. We have a lot of competitors now. We have Call of Duty, we have Battlefield, we have Battlefront, we have Titanfall. There's a lot out there that Halo has to compete with that it didn't used to. But they screwed up big with Halo 5 in a number of ways. Now, there are a lot of aspects of Halo 5 that I personally enjoy, but I think most of us can agree the story was absolute garbage. It's hard to understand where they were planning to go with it. The initial release was a bare bones release. At least that's what how most people viewed it. Not much in terms of multiplayer, a lackluster campaign, and it showed a lot. Here's what I do know, and I know this firsthand from talking to them, is that they are working hard to hear our thoughts, to hear our words, to hear our cries. And they're going to do everything they can to implement the most important aspects of what they believe should be implemented in a Halo game based on what we say, if that makes any sense. So let me back up a little bit. There's a lot to filter through when it comes to complaints. A lot of it. Believe me, I understand that just from my own experience here on this site. People will ask me to do one thing. You know, for example, when I do my walkthroughs for the Halo games, my guides, you'll have some people who get mad if I try to speed run a section because they think that's cheating, I'm not fighting anything, whatever. So then I do the opposite. And I try to do it nice and slow and kill everything, and then people say it's boring. Then I try to mix it up and people think I'm cheating. Just look at my triple warden battle on Legendary, where most people skip it, and I fought it head on, and it only took me 60 seconds to destroy all the wardens. People are like, how did he even do that? How is that possible? What I've learned from this job here, and what I think 343 is beginning to understand, is that no matter what you do, there's always going to be a group of people out there who aren't happy. Period. There's always going to be someone who complains, someone who always says you have the worst stuff ever, worst content, worst creations, whatever it is, there's always going to be people out there who aren't happy. The biggest mistake that they can possibly make is trying to cater to everybody. What they need to do for the next major Halo title is to filter through all the trash, filter through, you know, all the BS stuff, and find the most constructive comments out there, find the most constructive suggestions, and see who aligns with that the most. See how many people actually lean towards those suggestions and focus mostly on that. If you see that more people want a more classic Halo, go for a more classic Halo. But if you see more people want to change, they don't want to be playing the same game over and over again, go in that direction. There are a lot of other factors to be determined there, but basically they cannot make a Halo game for everybody. That's a fact. And honestly, at this point, if they bomb Halo 6, I don't see much of a future. I see them at least re-releasing some of the older games, as I said earlier in this video, based off of Bungie's content. I can see them re-releasing anniversary editions and having them as one collection, or maybe even doing stuff for the PC. Maybe even doing the Halo TV show. But honestly, if Halo 6 bombs, there's really not going to be much to save Halo at that point. That's not to say that they'll never make another Halo game again, but I think at that point, if Halo 6 is terrible, or worse, if it does even worse than Halo 5 Guardians, then no one's going to be playing the game anymore. Microsoft isn't going to want to invest all that money in making a game that no one's going to play. It's not good business. So that's why I think that they're learning their lessons, okay? Keep in mind, one of my biggest criticisms for Halo 5, aside from the game itself, was that they spread themselves too thin between Halo 4 and Halo 5. They worked on 3 other games between Halo 4 and Halo 5. We're talking about Halo Spartan Assault, Halo Spartan Strike, as well as the Master Chief Collection. And you're going to sit there and tell me, yeah, but other studios worked on those games too, and you're right. But this is not the same as what Bungie did with Ensemble Studio and Halo Wars. Halo Wars was fan fiction. That's what it was. Bungie was mostly hands-off. They had nothing to do with it. They didn't conduct the story. Microsoft, even if their developers aren't working on these games, they are directly involved. Their writers are in on it. They want to make sure that all these games line up with each other, that it just makes sense in their universe that they're trying to create. We talked about this earlier with the lore. Microsoft is involved in these games, even if it's mostly up to another studio to complete the majority of the work. They're spreading themselves too thin. And what I'm seeing so far for this next launch, especially with them delaying Halo 6, they're listening to this. They realize they messed up. Instead of trying to create more content, create quality content. I think they did Halo Wars 2 just so we had something to fill the time gap at least, and just a return to form. Something that people still love from the Bungie era. That's the only reason I think it's there, but to also help bridge the gap better between Halo 5 and Halo 6, because the bridge between Halo 4 and Halo 5 didn't exist, and if it did at one time, it fucking collapsed. So, at this point, they have to put everything they have into Halo 6. If they nail it, and it becomes the greatest game that they've ever done, at least on by 343 standards, they have a shot at continuing the franchise, maybe doing some prequel games or something, maybe following through with a Halo movie or the Halo TV series. But if it bombs, Halo won't last for the 2020s. They once said they wanted Halo to last 30 years. If Halo 6 bombs, you'll be lucky if you know what Halo is by 2025. Trust me. So in short, it all depends on them. And if they can nail Halo 6, Halo's got some years left in it. If they don't, congratulations. You just witnessed the fall of a franchise. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoyed this week's Q&A. I hope you did too. I love it when you guys ask me questions. Remember, the streaming sessions, you can ask questions there too, but if you really want your questions answered, you want a lot of thought given to them, stick with the Q&As as well. Don't abandon those for the streams, because I love being able to give full thought into the questions that you ask. I want to put full concentration on it. So I really enjoy you guys coming here every week. You're my favorite crowd by far because you're just such good people, and I love having you around. We have a stream going on tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern US time. So definitely be here. Remember, it's a live stream on YouTube, so if you're already a subscriber here, you're going to see it when it pops up, and I'm looking forward to seeing every one of you there tomorrow. And don't forget, leave it in the comments below in terms of whether or not you want to see me also stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Again, you can let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter. Links to my social media can be found in the description below. And if you like this video, hit that subscribe button for more video game related content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on MythicTyrant.com. I took a break for this past Wednesday because I was going to do a review on Friday the 13th, and I got so pissed off at the game that I was like, I gotta hold off for a week so I don't end up cursing the entire video. So you'll see my review for that coming out on Wednesday, so I hope you're looking forward to that. But definitely click that subscribe button for more video game related content, and don't forget about Q&A Saturdays because that's where we are now, and streaming every Sunday as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll catch you right back here next time, and as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.